Hey, what's going on, Deceiving Virgin Gang? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Today, we're going to be judging what people do with their own cards, but for a very good reason this time. So, card altering, card cleaning, card services on stuff. I've talked about it in great detail before. Me personally, it's not my thing. I'm kind of against it. I don't personally care too much what people do with their own personal card collection. If you want to clean your cards, you want to put some altering stuff on the card, you want to put some untested chemicals and things on your cards, and you want to just keep it for your personal collection, I think that's okay. I think that's fine. You can do what you want. The problem is a lot of people aren't doing this for their own personal collection. Look, I know there's a minority few of you in here that genuinely do that so you can have the best possible cards in your binder. I get it. There is some people that do it. The vast majority of people, though, engage in these services in order to sell the card for as much as possible and to flip the card. This is a flipper's business. This is not an investor's long term business. This is not a collector's business. This is a flipper's business in order to get cards that are kind of damaged to make them look as clean as possible, to improve the grade, to try to deceive PSA or CGC or BGS to get the highest grade possible to flip the card. That is not for their own personal collections, not for their own personal anything. It is to flip the fucker for 90% of people. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how many comments come in here saying that's not what they're doing. You're not going to fool me. I'm not fucking new here. I get what the fucking game is, okay? Once again, I really don't have too much of a problem with people doing that and actually selling said card to other people if they are upfront and honest that they actually used this stuff on the card, that they actually did some kind of altering on the card, that they did something to it, that they put some kind of chemical on it, that they fucking, pressed out creases and dents and all that stuff, did some kind of altering to it, and let the person decide if they want to in order to buy it or sell it. But that's not why people do this half the time. People engage in these services, so along the lines, further down, they don't have to disclose to the person they're selling it to that they actually got this card. PSA did the authentication and the grading for them. And ultimately, if PSA or whatever grading company didn't catch this, they can just completely shift blame onto them and be like, well, it was good enough for PSA, it was good enough for CGC, it was good enough. And all these grading companies, by the way, have never endorsed any of this stuff. Have never said that like any of these splooges or any of the fucking pressing or anything like that is allowed, that they completely endorse it. They're actually saying the opposite. All the grading companies, the major ones, all the major grading companies, as far as I know, and it's the last thing I saw, they were completely against it, especially chemical altering, especially putting chemicals on the card, especially doing all that, and they just don't like it. So I don't personally care as long as there's some kind of label or some kind of something. I believe PSA was working on something at last I saw. I don't know if they actually fucking went through with that or not. I'll maybe right here I'll put it. They'll let you know, yay or nay. Maybe they did it, maybe they did. I know they were talking about it at some point, but they've been very public saying that they are not fans of any of this, and it's actually very detrimental to the card, in their opinion. The community and the flippers will say otherwise. They'll have their own opinions, they'll have their own takes. A lot of them say they've been in the hobby for a long time. That's just fucking not true, because if they were, they would be like, I should probably tell people. They'd have a little more care about telling people about this shit, and, the customers that they're working with actually disclosing this information with other people. But whatever, it's beyond that. It's your choice. Do your thing. Have your fun with it. As long as you're upfront and honest, or it's for your own personal collection, I don't personally give a fuck what you do with your cards. But of course, on r/Pokey Investing, we got some people that are looking at cards right here and always trying to make the most out of their cards, trying to get the most money. Hey, do your thing, big dog. We got this one right here. Are there any safe ways to make this dent unnoticeable on this card? This is the Bubble Mew. This is a very hot topic card right now. Trying to get this card out and going. I pulled a Bubble Mew and I'm super excited. It's mostly perfect in every way, but it's got a tiny dent in the bottom that was right out of the pack. It's hard to tell. It's like the edge is slightly lifted up. I'm most likely not going to sell it, but is there any hope whatsoever to flatten this out to try to get a 10 down the line? Or am I already cooked? So I don't believe this take. I believe this person has the full intention to try to grade this card to sell it. I believe that is the intention. This is a very hot topic card, and if someone truly just liked the card for what it is, a factory dent in it like that, it's not really that big of a fucking deal. If you want the PSA 10, that's fine, but most people want a PSA 10 to maximize the value and to flip said card. I'm not fucking stupid. People are going to tell me that's a very, yeah, you're looking at this the wrong. Dude, I'm not dumb. People want to grade cards so they can flip them in the future. I'm not fucking fucking dumb. That's what most people want to do, all right? Now, you might be looking at this card right here. You might be like, well, what dent are they talking about? The card looks pretty good. Well, they actually did a little enhancement right there. And if you look down at the very, very bottom, right by the set symbol and the set number and all that stuff, the set lettering, excuse me, not set symbol. That's how old I am. The set, like, numbering, like, right there on the bottom, you can see, like very tiny little dent. This is PSA we're dealing with here. This is PSA cards. If you just send this in and you don't mention this to them, they might not even see it. They might just like look at the fucking surface of the card and be like, yep, that's a fucking 10 to me, and kick it right back to you, and it might get a 10 on its own. Honestly, truly, they might miss that. That's not really that noticeable of a dent. I was looking at the card right here, and it took me a second to even see what you were talking about. I was like, man, the card actually looks pretty good. It's a very nice looking Mew, very centered, very nice. And it's at the very bottom, these pack fresh cards, man, you just can't get around. What really gets me, and what makes me think this is for like flippers, not even investors, man. I don't even think investors like this shit. Is like, this is a very like weird thing to do to like the community in terms of like the long term, right? So let me explain. You make a actual service that makes cards that are not PSA 10 quality, they're just into PSA 10s, right? You can basically make PSA 10 cards out of non-PSA 10. Let me repeat that. You can make and manufacture PSA 10 cards out of non-PSA 10 cards. Let me repeat that one more time. You can make PSA 10 cards out of not PSA 10 cards. Now, to a lot of people, they're going to be like, well, what's the fucking big deal? A lot of the people who are in this hobby for the long haul, a lot of people that like cards like this shit for its exclusiveness. I'm not really one of those people, but a lot of people tend to like lower numbers, lower pop, more exclusive, and one of the big reasons people are saying the English side of the house on the Scarlet and Violet era for the special alt arts and all that shit is English quality is kind of trash. It's kind of lame, and actually getting a PSA 10 pull for something out of a pack is a little bit rarer than it would be from anything else because just the quality sucks that much. That's why some of the 151 cards are going for crazy amounts. That's why some of the ARs and the IRs are going for a really goofy amount because they're coming from the factory with print lines. They're coming from the factory just not center. They're coming from the factory with these like little dings on it like you got right here. Now, this is not really that big of an issue to actually flatten and fix out yourself if you're keeping it for your collection. But like, say you can actually like make this go away. You can actually deceive PSA. You can actually make it down the line where it's not noticeable, as the person was saying in the post right there. Just, it's not noticeable, right? You kick it to PSA 10, successful, it comes back, it comes back at 10, it does its thing, right? You kick it to PSA, and that's the end of it, right? Say 5 years down the line, you do sell this card to somebody, and like maybe 4 years after you sell it, they're like, you know what, fuck it. I want to crack this out of the slab, and I want to try to go for that BGS 10. I want to try to get that black label, baby. And grading has progressed another 4 years. They can actually determine where people have actually pressed on the card. There's like the pressure. There's like a little impact little thing they can do now. There's all kinds of stuff. They're doing like crazy 3D scanning. It's like the blink of an eye. They're like doing all this shit with it, right? And they can determine that somebody pressed on the card. That person who had no idea that someone actually pressed on the card, thought it was just a PSA 10 card from somebody, is now going to be told, hey, this is altered. Someone pressed on this card. Possibly, of course, is down the line. And sorry, we're going to kick it back to you. And that person's just left holding the bag for that card. Same with all the mystery splooges. Same with all the other shit that people don't disclose with cards. Look, I don't care. Your collection is your collection. Your collection is your problem. But people do this so they can put these cards onto other people and sell them, and usually not disclose what they did. When people do this stuff and they don't actually disclose it, it does become the community's problem, and it does become a problem that could actually surface in the future. And a lot of people here don't care about it because it's not their problem anymore. They deceive two people, the person in PSA or the other grading company, and they deceive the person they sold it to. So they don't generally care. I'm not saying everybody does this, but 90% of people do this. You're not going to fucking tell me any otherwise, okay? I've been here long enough. I know how it is. You've deceived two sets of people. You don't care. You made your money. You moved on, right? That's what this is. That's why I think this is a whole flippers thing. Investors don't want fucking cards being made into PSA 10s. They don't want people to just fucking go tink, 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 tink. All right, it's a 10, and just a mass influx of 10s for the population goes in. And yes, the person doing that makes some money, but overall, that population, especially if the card's just not in crazy demand or something like that, or there's just a huge amount of the cards now that are selling for 10s because they're getting past the grading services, then that just actually affects the cards. No investor wants that. Nothing, like, no one wants that to happen. Collectors don't want to be deceived and not know what's going on with their cards. They like to know exactly what's going on with the card, and generally, even if they pull a card from a pack and it's got like some kind of like error or something to it, at least they know what's up with the card. Collectors don't like being fucking lied to and like being deceived, whether they want to go one way or another with the card. And then the grading companies themselves aren't cool with this shit either. There's people in the comment section talking about all kinds of different ways they can get out the little ding. You can press your fingers together with it with like a penny sleeve over it. You can get like a very flat pin, not like a fucking Bic pin or something like that, and like just roll it over and try to fucking flatten it out that way. Try to like press on it with like a they make like these little squeegees for like cards almost. It's almost what they look like. It looks like almost like a little mini squeegee, and you could just fucking put it in a not top loader, a penny sleeve, and just press it and just have that shit go. And that's like, it's crazy to me the links people will go to actually do that stuff for the cards when it actively hurts the whole point of grading a card. Grading a card is about finding a genuine PSA 10 or a BGS 10 or a CGC 10 and finding a genuine perfect card, because the hunt of that entire thing is supposed to be the fun part of it. You pull a good card from a set, you know, it's, oh, that's a good card, there's a good centering on that, that's kind of crazy, I'm going to kick this up, and hopefully it's a 10. Hopefully it's like that. You're kind of taking away some of the fun and some of it whenever like you're looking for cards, and you can just fucking almost guarantee a 10. You can just be like, oh, there's an imperfection right there. Shink, 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 shink. That's not someone who likes the hobby, in my opinion. That's someone who likes money. That's someone who wants to flip this shit and flip it to the next sucker because it's a card they don't fucking care about. There are, I guarantee, a few people that do this stuff to their own personal collection and their own personal cards, and they don't sell. But you are in a huge minority with that. The mass majority, and we've watched it happen with money and the pushes people do with certain things, right? The mass majority are worried about the money and the value and what they can flip a card for. That's what it is. There ain't no fucking lying about this stuff. No pulling the curtain down. That's just what it fucking is. And it does bleed into the rest of the hobby. It does affect people who don't know any better. It does affect the grading companies. It affects the implementations they put on cards. It affects the trust people have between like sellers and people doing stuff from PSA. It affects credibility. It affects like how comfortable people feel about it, because once again, people don't usually disclose something happened to this card. Number one, because they don't know, or two, because they know it affects someone's like ability, or like it affects their decision a little bit on whether they're going to buy the card on. It affects how they feel about it, because they know it's been kind of messed with a little, you know what I'm saying? It does. It's in the back of your head. It's not something that like people necessarily always want to think about, but it's right there. If it comes back at 10 and someone leaves it at 10, that's that's a thing. But you're not always in control of what people are going to do with those slabs. People might want to crack it and try to get a BGS, you know, a fucking perfect black label. Maybe some fucking mad lad wants to crack it out of PSA and send it to CGC, and grading's progressed so far, they're just stuck left holding a bag. And that's the thing people don't think about whenever they're doing like quick flips, when they're doing quick, short-term things, not thinking about the community here, not thinking about fucking the problems further on. And that, in my opinion, is not a community member here. I don't give a shit. Get mad at me. Flippers, I think this is a flipper thing. This is not even an investor thing. This is not really a collector thing. This is a fucking flipper thing. That's how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be people that disagree with it. I don't personally care what people do with their cards. I don't personally care if you want to put whatever on your cards, you want to flatten them out, you want to do fucking little cuts and cool little things on them. I don't personally give a shit. But whenever it's being sold to somebody, or it's actually going out to a community member and people don't disclose that information, that's what I have a problem with. You as a collector, you as someone in this hobby, deserve to know what you were buying and deserve to know what you were actually getting. And when that doesn't happen, that's what I have a problem with. That's all I got. Appreciate it, Virgin Gang. See you later. It's a problem. I guarantee someone's going to twist my words. Guarantee someone's going to do it and be like, oh, here's a huge problem with all shit. I don't like altering for a couple different reasons, but the main thing is it's usually passed along to somebody and they don't fucking know. There you go. That's my fucking word.